Emotional day today at the Keokuk National Cemetery. This week marks just over 50 years since the last American troop left Vietnam. The National Cemetery was the site for honoring all Vietnam veterans. At News Since 5, WGEM's Dylan Smith was there and talked with the veterans. So Dylan, what does he make of today?
Well, Daniel, it is a celebration, but still a very somber day. Nearly 60,000 American troops died in Vietnam, and veteran Harold Rawson says he's thankful for days like today because a welcome home is something many Vietnam vets didn't get.
It's about honoring those who served, those who made it back, and those who didn't. Keokuk's National Cemetery is the resting place to about 700 Vietnam veterans who have died, and today, Harold Rawson is paying his respects.
Well, there's 58,000 guys killed over there, and in my opinion, and others, for nothing. And for them to honor the people that served over there, that's a nice deal.
Rawson served in the Marine Corps for 4 years and saw time in Vietnam. He remembers those who served as heroes, despite the negative opinion of some when they came home.
We thought we were fighting communism, but that pretty well faded out after time.
We only have the choice to serve our country. We are not permitted the option of choosing where.
Together, two veterans lay a wreath underneath Old Glory.
A hero, a soldier, who never showed any regret.
And Mayor Kathy Mahoney reads a poem about a family member who was also a Vietnam vet.
I met a man who had no legs that you could see, a hero who stood much taller than you, much taller than me.
Iowa State Senator Jeff Reichman, who spoke at the ceremony today, says he ran legislation on the Senate floor last week that would add a position to the Iowa Commissions of Veterans Affairs, and he says it awaits the governor's signature. Daniel?
All right, thank you, Dylan. And tomorrow marks 51 years since the last troops left Vietnam.